Imagine walking into the woods on a bright summer morning. The air smells fresh, the trees stand tall, and every path feels like an invitation to adventure. You expect peace, maybe even freedom. But for some, that walk into nature becomes the last time anyone ever sees them alive. They step into the wild and simply vanish. National parks are often called America's greatest treasure. They cover more than 85 million acres, stretching across mountains, deserts, and forests. Every year, millions of people visit them to hike, camp, or explore. For most, it's a safe escape from city life. But hidden within that beauty are stories that dawned to make the travel brochures. Stories of people who disappeared without a trace, leaving behind nothing but confusion and fear. When someone goes missing in the wilderness, the usual answers are accidents, wild animals, or getting lost. But some cases don't fit so neatly. In these stories, searches turned up no clues. People vanished in front of others. Sometimes belongings were found, but the person was gone. These mysteries have become part of what some researchers call the missing 411 phenomenon. Strange, unsolved disappearances in parks and wild places across the United States. And while investigators continue to search for answers, these cases remain stubbornly unsolved. Families are left without closure and questions linger like shadows over the mountains and forests. Today we'll explore 6 of the most haunting examples, cases where people vanished in the wild, leaving behind nothing but unanswered questions. From seasoned hikers to young children, from deserts to mountain trails, their stories remind us that the wilderness doesn't always give back what it takes. First, Mike Herron, the disappearance in the Smoky Mountains. One of the most haunting cases comes from the Smoky Mountains, a place known for its rolling hills, thick forests, and endless trails. It's a landscape that looks peaceful on the surface but hides countless dangers beneath. In 2008, 51-year-old Mike Herron, a father and a local man who loved riding his ATV, headed out for what should have been a short and ordinary trip into the mountains. Mike was no stranger to the outdoors. He had grown up around those very trails and was known by friends and family as confident, capable, and strong. That's what makes what happened next so hard to understand. Mike left home on his all-terrain vehicle and drove into the rugged Smoky Mountain woods. Hours later, his ATV was discovered abandoned. The keys were still in the ignition, as if he had just stepped away for a quick break. But Mike himself was nowhere to be found. At first, people thought he might have wandered off and gotten lost. Search teams quickly gathered. Family members, local authorities, and volunteers combed through the woods, calling his name and scouring every ridge and hollow. They used dogs, helicopters, and even thermal imaging. But the search turned up nothing. No tracks, no clothing, no footprints. It was as if Mike had been swallowed by the forest. His family refused to give up. They organized search parties and even offered rewards for information. Yet days stretched into weeks and weeks turned into months. No one ever found a trace of Mike. Theories began to spread. Some believed he may have fallen into a hidden cave or crevice. Others wondered if foul play was involved, that maybe someone had lured him out or harmed him far from the ATV. And then there's the more chilling possibility, the one that fits into so many other wilderness cases, that something strange and unexplained happened out there, something beyond ordinary reasoning. The fact that the ATV was left behind with the keys inside only deepens the mystery. Why would Mike walk away from his only transportation? If he was hurt, wouldn't he have stayed close waiting for help? If he was lost, how could searchers find absolutely no trace? His disappearance still haunts the region. For his family, there are no answers, only endless questions about how a strong, experienced man could disappear so completely in a place he knew so well. And Mike's story is only the beginning, because the wilderness didn't stop there. Another man, far away in the mountains of Idaho, would vanish in circumstances just as unsettling. Second, Todd Hoflander, vanishing in Idaho's wilderness. If Mike Herron's story leaves us with questions, the disappearance of 41-year-old Todd Hoflander adds another unsettling layer to the mystery of the wild. It was September 2010 when Todd set out on a backpacking trip with a friend and his dog Ruby in the Seven Devils wilderness of Idaho. The area is breathtaking. Steep ridges, steep valleys and trails that challenge even experienced hikers. Todd wasn't new to outdoor adventures. He was fit, adventurous, and loved exploring the rugged landscapes of the Northwest. During the trip, Todd twisted his ankle badly while hiking. Despite the injury, he and his friend tried to keep moving, but the terrain was rough and the pain made it impossible for Todd to keep up. Todd would take a different route back with Ruby, while his friend pushed ahead to get help. That was the last time anyone saw Todd alive. Search and rescue teams poured into the wilderness as soon as news broke that he hadn't returned. Helicopters scanned the ridges, and volunteers combed through miles of rocky terrain. But no sign of Todd appeared. What made the search even stranger was that Ruby, his loyal dog, eventually returned, tired, thin, but alive. She had somehow made it back, but Todd was nowhere to be found. For years, the case remained unsolved. His family kept searching, hoping, waiting for answers. And then, in 2016, 6 years after his disappearance, his remains were finally discovered by another group of hikers in a remote part of the wilderness. It seemed to confirm that Todd had died alone in the mountains, but even this discovery didn't close the case. Several items Todd was carrying that day were missing. His backpack, some of his gear, and personal belongings were never recovered. Some believe animals scattered his remains and carried off parts of his equipment. Others aren't so sure. Why did Ruby survive and return, but Todd never managed to make it back to safety? Why were certain items missing as if they had been deliberately taken? Todd's disappearance and eventual discovery highlight just how unforgiving the wilderness can be. Even a skilled hiker with a loyal dog by his side can vanish for years before answers surface, and even then, not all questions are resolved. But if losing an experienced adult in the wilderness is disturbing, the next case is even more heartbreaking. In 1969, a young boy vanished in front of his family in the Smoky Mountains, sparking one of the largest search operations in national park history. His name was Dennis Martin. Before we continue, if you're finding these stories as chilling and thought-provoking as I am, take a moment to like this video. It helps more people discover these unsolved mysteries. Fourth, Kenny Veach, the mystery of the M Cave. Not all vanishings happen in forests or mountains. Some take place in the dry, unforgiving deserts of Nevada, in areas not far from one of the most secretive places in the world, Area 51. In 2014, a hiker named Kenny Veach posted a video on YouTube about something strange he had discovered while exploring the desert near Nellis Air Force Base. He claimed he had found a cave shaped like a perfect M. When he tried to enter, his whole body began to vibrate with fear, almost like something inside was warning him to stay away. The video quickly drew attention. Viewers encouraged him to go back and film more proof. Kenny, an adventurous man who loved solo hikes, agreed. He promised to return and document what he had seen. But when he set out again, he never came back. Search teams later found his cell phone near the mouth of an old mine shaft. But there was no sign of Kenny himself. No body, no gear, nothing. The discovery only fueled speculation. Some believe he may have fallen into the mine shaft and been lost forever. Others think he may have staged his disappearance. And then, there are the more extreme theories. Claims that something connected to Area 51 silenced him, or that the cave itself held some dangerous secret. What makes Kenny's case stand out is how public it was. Unlike most wilderness vanishings, his story unfolded in real time, with his own videos serving as the introduction to the mystery. People watched as he described the cave and then watched as he disappeared, leaving behind only questions. Today, Kenny's video remains online, continuing to attract new viewers who wonder what exactly happened out there in the Nevada desert. Did he stumble upon something he wasn't meant to find? Or was it simply a tragic accident in an unforgiving landscape? Whatever the truth, Kenny's disappearance reminds us that the wilderness, whether forest, mountain, or desert, holds secrets that don't always reveal themselves. And just as Kenny vanished in the desert, another man would disappear in the middle of a race in the rugged mountains of Alaska. His name was Michael LeMaitre, 5th. Michael LeMaitre lost in the Mount Marathon race, Alaska. Every 4th of July, the small town of Seward, Alaska, comes alive with one of the toughest mountain races in the world, the Mount Marathon Race. It's only about 3 miles long, but the course goes nearly straight up and down a steep, rocky mountain. For locals, it's a tradition. For runners, it's a test of strength, courage, and endurance. In 2012, a 65-year-old man named Michael LeMaitre decided to take on the challenge. Michael wasn't an elite runner, but he was determined. Friends described him as positive, energetic, and full of life. He wanted to push himself, and finishing Mount Marathon would be a huge accomplishment. On race day, Michael started the climb with hundreds of others. The trail was crowded, the mountain steep and muddy, but Michael kept going. Witnesses reported seeing him near the upper parts of the course, moving slowly but still pressing forward. That was the last confirmed sighting of him. When the race ended, Michael never crossed the finish line. At first, officials thought he might simply be delayed, but as the hours passed, concern grew. Search teams spread across the mountain through the night. Helicopters scanned the ridges. Volunteers climbed dangerous slopes, and rescuers called out his name again and again. But Michael had vanished. Despite days of searching, no trace of him was ever found. No clothing, no equipment, no body. It was as if he had stepped off the trail and disappeared into thin air. For his family, the lack of answers was devastating. How could someone vanish in the middle of an organized race, surrounded by runners, spectators, and officials? In the years that followed, Michael's disappearance forced changes to the race itself. Organizers added stricter safety measures, more checkpoints, and better communication along the course. But none of those changes could explain what had happened to him. Theories vary. Some believe Michael may have taken a wrong turn in the fog and fallen into an unseen ravine. Others think exhaustion could have caused him to collapse in a hidden spot, too difficult for searchers to reach. And of course, there are those who believe his disappearance falls into the same strange category as other missing 411 cases, sudden vanishings with no clear explanation. To this day, Michael LeMaitre's case remains one of Alaska's greatest mysteries. A man who set out to prove his strength during a holiday tradition instead became part of a haunting puzzle that still lingers over the town of Seward. And if that wasn't strange enough, the next case involves a woman who didn't vanish once but twice. Sixth, Gail Stewart. 2 disappearances in a month. Some disappearances feel like cruel twists of fate. Others leave you wondering if destiny itself had a hand in them. The story of Gail Stewart is one of those. In the summer of 2012, Gail, a 64-year-old woman from Reno, Nevada, went missing while walking her dog. Search teams quickly spread out, and after hours of combing the desert terrain, they found her alive, injured, dehydrated, but still breathing. Friends and family were shaken but relieved. They thought the nightmare was over. But then, only 1 month later, it happened again. This time, Gail was near Hoover Dam, a vast desert area along the Nevada-Arizona border. Once more, she vanished without a trace. Searchers came out in full force, combing through the rocky landscape and using helicopters to cover the wide desert expanse. They found nothing. No clothing, no tracks, no belongings. Gail was simply gone. The strangeness of her case stunned everyone. How could the same woman disappear twice in such a short period of time? First rescued, and then lost forever. Was it a tragic accident the second time? Or was there something more at play? Her story sparked countless theories. Some believe her injuries during the first disappearance weakened her, leaving her more vulnerable during the second. Others think she may have been disoriented or confused and wandered into dangerous ground. And then there are those who point to the odd coincidence, 2 disappearances so close together, with the second one leaving no trace at all. Unlike some other cases, Gail's mystery has no closure. No remains have ever been found. Her family never received answers. All they have are memories, and the painful knowledge that she vanished twice, with the wilderness finally keeping her. Stories like Gail's highlight the most unsettling part of these cases. Sometimes the wild gives people back, battered but alive. Other times, it swallows them completely, leaving only unanswered questions. And after hearing these 6 stories, we're left with a haunting truth. The wilderness is as mysterious as it is beautiful. The wilderness is one of the last places on Earth where mystery still feels alive. It's a world of deep forests, sharp cliffs, and endless silence. For most of us, national parks and wild landscapes are escapes, places to recharge, to breathe, and to feel small in the face of nature's power. But for some, these same landscapes become the last place they're ever seen. We've explored 6 stories: Mike Herron, Todd Hofflander, Dennis Martin, Kenny Veach, Michael LeMaitre, and Gail Stewart. Each case is different ages, different places, different circumstances. And yet they all share one thing in common: they remain unsolved. No clear answers, no closure, just questions that hang in the air, like echoes in the mountains. These stories remind us of 2 truths. First, the wilderness demands respect. No matter how skilled, prepared, or determined we are, nature is always stronger. Second, some mysteries may never be solved. They linger in the shadows of forests and deserts, reminding us that not everything can be explained. If you found these cases haunting, and you want to explore more stories of people who vanished, mysteries that defy reason, and secrets the wild refuses to give up, make sure to subscribe to this channel. That way you won't miss the next deep dive into the unexplained. The wilderness may never give us answers, but together we can keep the memories of those who vanished alive.